It's Tuesday again and I would like to hang with you lads, but I'm off to listen to the new episode of the Slaven Selection Show. Play now or stay in dark forever.
Well, this is something. I managed to record 4 episodes at once today because before that, it was August and the beginning of September. I was busy with work on Beast games, as you might have known. I was also busy with school and something else, so I was totally behind. Yeah, I know. I always have very bad excuses. But I'm proud and I'm happy because this is episode 30, my beloved listeners. Not a big deal, simply noting that there is still a long way to go before achieving excellence. It doesn't matter if it never comes or if it does, as long as you start to appreciate the vastness of space. It is all about entropy after all. Nothing will last forever, which might not be such a bad thing. Beauty emerges from absurdity, right? And yes, space is immense. Just think of it. Our brain evolved a lot since we came out of caves, and still the very action of trying to imagine our galactic neighborhood, never mind the local cluster group, is giving us let's call it a cluster headache. Laniakea translates to immense heaven in Hawaiian, derived from Iani, heaven, and Aikea, spacious or immeasurable. The name was proposed by Navas Napoleon, an associate professor of Hawaiian language and chair of the Department of Languages, Linguistics, and Literature at Kapiolani Community College, a University of Hawaii system institution. The name honors Polynesian navigators who used their knowledge of the skies to travel across the vast Pacific Ocean. Beautiful. Superclusters were first hypothesized by George Abel, an American astronomer, in his 1958 Abel Catalog of Galaxy Clusters. He referred to them as second-order clusters or clusters within clusters. In 1932, American astronomers Harlow Shapley and Adelaide Ames published a catalog that revealed that the distributions of galaxies brighter than 13 magnitude differed significantly north and south of the Milky Way's galaxy's plane. Their findings were the first to suggest that the universe could contain significant regions that deviated from the assumptions of homogeneity and isotropy. The most prominent feature in their maps was the Virgo cluster, with elongated appendages stretching on both sides to a total length exceeding 50 million light-years. In the decades after, Swedish astronomer Eric Holmberg, French-American astronomer Gérard de Vaucouleurs, and American astronomer George Abel have expanded on the concept of the local supercluster. So, French astronomers described an abundance of galaxies in one area of the sky, implying that the local group and other neighboring galaxies were part of a larger rotating structure which he initially dubbed the local supergalaxy. By the late 1950s, he began calling it the local supercluster. It's an incredible feeling to come across something familiar, something near to your heart, like I did, or like the French city Lyon is to me, because Hélène Dinella-Courtois is a French astrophysicist, one of 4 reputable scientists who contributed to the analysis and classification of Laniakea, including Brent Tully of the University of Hawaii, Yehuda Hoffman of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and Daniel Pomared of CEA, Université Paris-Saclay. And she's a professor at the University of Lyon 1, specialized in cosmography, and has been a Chevalier of the Order of the Palme Académique since 2015. She's Helen. She's best known for her work on the dynamic cosmography of the universe as the director of a research team at the Lyon Institut de Physique de Infini. Previously, the Institute of Nuclear Physics, or IPNL, and co-director of two international teams, Cosmic Flows and Clues. Her research has focused on the distribution of matter in the large-scale structure of the universe. In 2006, she helped to confirm the acceleration of the universe's expansion through the analysis of supernovas. In 2014, she also proposed a reinterpretation of galactic superclusters and identified the Laniakea supercluster, which is 100 times larger than the Virgo supercluster, if you can imagine that. That's crazy. Well, do I even have to mention this? In 2017, she was ranked in the top 50 most influential French personalities by Vanity Fair. Well, I have to say my father taught at Lyon 3 or Jean Moulin, and for me, University of Lyon or Université de Lyon is more than science. It's a personal connection. So what happened next is pretty much the definition of a scientific approach. Astronomers discovered the Laniakea supercluster by methodically tracking the motions and locations of hundreds of thousands of galaxies over a wide region of the observable cosmos. By measuring the distances to other galaxies from the Milky Way and the local group, tracking the migration of each galaxy to estimate its direction and speed, accounting for the universe's expansion, creating a precise 3D map of the gravitational effects of other galaxies, clusters, and superclusters, identifying locations where neighboring galaxies were migrating in opposite directions, much like water pouring down two sides of a watershed, and tracking the motion of galaxies pointing towards the gravitational center of what would become known as the Laniakea supercluster. The GBT of the National Science Foundation's Greenback telescope and other radio telescopes were used to record the velocities of galaxies throughout our local universe, allowing the scientists to define the region of space where each supercluster prevails. Greenback telescope observations have played a significant role in the research, leading to this new understanding of the limits and relationships among a number of superclusters. Tali informed the audience they faced many important hurdles while mapping the Laniakea supercluster. One of them was defining boundaries. Well, yeah, how the heck do you do that if it's the most difficult task, creating defined boundaries for the supercluster. Unlike smaller structures, superclusters have poorly defined boundaries, making it difficult to tell where one stops and another one begins. Researchers sought to develop a new approach to analyze these large-scale structures based on their gravitational influence on adjacent galaxies. There were also the issue of complex galaxy motions, which required the researchers to account for the unusual velocity of galaxies, which are the movements of galaxies affected by the gravitational pull of neighboring structures. This requires exact measurements of both the theoretical recession velocities, anticipated owing to the universe's expansion, and the observed velocities, indicating how galaxies are affected by their gravitational surroundings. Then, of course, the demon of data collection. Well, collecting precise distance measurements for thousands of galaxies was a massive undertaking, and the researchers used a combination of ground-based and space telescopes to gather data on more than 8,000 galaxies in various parts of the sky. The enormous data collection was required to generate a thorough three-dimensional map of galaxy distribution and movement, Also, in one of my recent episodes, I discussed the influence of dark energy and the effect of dark energy, which determines the universe's expansion pace, provided a new degree of intricacy. Understanding how this force interacts with galaxy movements was essential for precisely charting Laniakea structure and behavior. And of course, the observation problem. Certain regions of the sky were shrouded by galactic dust and gas, making direct observation difficult. Some locations were not properly examined, therefore, some structures might go unseen until their gravitational impacts were detected through galactic notions. Galaxies are not distributed randomly throughout the cosmos. Instead, they form groups such as the local group, which includes dozens of galaxies. And these groupings, in turn, are part of large clusters made up of hundreds of galaxies, all connected by a network of filaments in which galaxies are strung like pearls. And superclusters are massive structures that emerge at filament crossings. The vast structures that make up the universe frequently have ambiguous limits, and to properly characterize these structures, astronomers studied cosmic flows to the largest ever catalog of galaxies' motions, reasoning that each galaxy belongs to the structure whose gravity causes it to flow toward Laniakea, which means, again, immeasurable heaven in Hawaiian refers largely to Laniakea supercluster. And it's a massive grouping of galaxies that includes the Milky Way and approximately 100,000 additional galaxies. And this supercluster covers approximately 520 million light years and has a mass estimated to be around 100 million billion times that of the Sun. This supercluster is a component of the larger Pisces supercluster complex. And Pisces supercluster complex is a galaxy filament, and the Laniakea supercluster contains the Virgo supercluster lobe, which in turn contains the local group and the galaxy cluster that comprises the Milky Way. And this filament is next to, again, Perseus Pegasus filament. Also, Laniakea borders another superclusters, which is, Perseus Pisces. So, within Laniakea, galaxies are alert to the Great Attractor, a mysterious gravitational anomaly that impacts their movement. And the Great Attractor is a zone of gravitational attraction in intergalactic supercluster of galaxies, which comprises again the Milky Way galaxy and approximately another 100,000 additional galaxies. And the observed attraction predicts a mass concentration of about 1,016 solar masses. However, it is shrouded by the Milky Way's galactic plane and lies behind the zone of avoidance, or ZOE, making the Great Attractor difficult to detect directly in visible light wavelengths. The attraction can be seen in the motion of galaxies and their accompanying clusters spanning hundreds of millions of light years of space. Also, what is really interesting, Laniakea is not gravitationally bound, which implies that it might eventually spread over time rather than persist as a cohesive organism. While it comprises roughly, again, 100,000 galaxies, investigations shows that it lacks enough mass to remain a cohesive structure despite the expansion of the universe. Instead, it is predicted to disperse over time due to the influence of dark energy, which is pulling galaxies away at a rapid rate. The South Pole Wall is the closest supercluster to the Laniakea supercluster, and this newly discovered structure lies just beyond Laniakea and wraps around it, forming a large arc that extends far into the northern sky. The densest component of the South Pole Wall is located in the direction of the Earth's South Pole at a distance of around 500 million light years from us, while parts of it are within about 300 million light years of the Milky Way. A nest of supercluster was discovered in 2023, and it is the most massive galaxy supercluster discovered so far. It contains a mass equivalent to around 26 quadrillion suns, and it is located about 3 billion light years away and would take a light signal 360 million years to travel from one side to another. We still do not have a precise maps of every galaxy supercluster out there, but we now have one for our own home supercluster, which is certainly a start. Is this the most precise chart of our place in the universe, and as stated by the iconic National Geographic? Perhaps, but as I previously stated, once you reach the point of scaling the area around you, the inevitable question arises, does it really matter? It's so huge, it's crazy, we're nothing but ants here, and re-examining your goal will not help here. No religion, philosophy, spirituality can approach these dimensions. And guess what? It pales in comparison to the grandeur of space. Laniakea as it is might as well be a grain of sand on the never-ending cosmic beach. But that's fine, it's okay to be small and insignificant. That is precisely where the beauty lies. If you're anxious about your personal insignificance in the larger scheme of things, all I can say, the cosmic angst or Kosmosschmerz is real, and I feel for you. Put it this way, the very reason the cosmos doesn't seem to make sense or doesn't have purpose at all is poetic to the core. It wouldn't make sense that it makes sense, doesn't it? For those who belong to more or less organized religion, I have zero understanding, but hey, nobody's stopping them to worship whatever they want. And let me quote Neil deGrasse Tyson again. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. If you don't understand something, don't come up with lame explanations. By the way, for my francophone followers, Helen's book Voyage sur une flotte de galaxies is available at thelibraries.ca in paper and EPUB edition. Kobo, hello. Oh well, considering it's now Canadian Japanese, I don't think we can expect anything French soon aside of silly cookbooks for modern starschmucks women in Lululemon pants. Yes, we are infinitesimally insignificant, but that doesn't stop us from to get up for another day under the sun, make our beds, and do what we have to do that day. In the evening, we can always find 5 minutes to look up and take a deep breath. If this is where we belong, that's okay. This is our time to shine, our chance for 5 minutes of fame in the astronomical measurements. Evolution selected us, so stay grateful and also stay selective. Bye-bye.